Your flower bed might be the reason your yard looks worse by August. Seriously. Some of the prettiest flowers at the nursery are also some of the biggest maintenance traps you can plant. They look incredible in that little plastic pot. Huge blooms, perfect color, Pinterest-level curb appeal. So you buy 3, bring them home and think, this is going to look amazing. Then real life happens. You forget to water them. The blooms flop after one storm. Leaves turn yellow. Something starts eating them. And suddenly you're pruning, staking, deadheading, feeding, spraying, and Googling plant problems at 10 p.m. And by August, that beautiful flower bed you imagined looks tired, messy, and completely overgrown. I know, because I did exactly this for years. I kept spending $60, $80, sometimes more on flowers that looked low effort at the nursery, but turned into a full-time job once they got home. And here's the part nobody tells you. A flower can be beautiful and still be completely wrong for your yard. So today, we're going through 15 high-maintenance flowers that can quietly wreck your curb appeal, plus the exact reason each one becomes a headache for busy gardeners. Because you don't need a yard that looks like a botanical garden. You need a yard that still looks good when you forget about it for a week. And do not skip number 14. It looks like one of the most beautiful plants you could put around a porch or pergola, but give it enough time, and it can start climbing into gutters, siding, roofs, and anything else standing in its way. Let's get into it. Item number 1, hydrangeas. Everybody wants the giant blue pom-pom hydrangea from Pinterest. Here's the problem. That color is not a given. It's a chemistry experiment. Picture this. Huge, round, or cone-shaped blooms, blue, pink, or white, on a shrub that can get chest high. Gorgeous. Also thirsty. Here's what makes it a headache for busy people. It wilts dramatically the second the soil dries out, usually by 2 p.m. on a hot day. It needs acidic soil for blue blooms, which means you're testing pH like a chemistry teacher. It flowers on old wood for most varieties, so one wrong prune in fall means 0 blooms next summer. It needs partial shade in hot climates or it scorches by July. One specific detail: prune at the wrong time, say late fall instead of right after flowering, and you can wipe out next year's entire bloom cycle. I did this 2 years running before I figured out the timing. But if that one's not for you, the next one is somehow even fussier. Item number 2. Hybrid tea roses. This is the classic long stem rose you see in bouquets, and it is basically a part-time job in a bush. Tall, upright canes, one perfect bloom per stem, deep red or soft pink, the kind of flower that looks like it belongs in a magazine. Here's what makes it rough for anyone who isn't obsessed. It needs deadheading almost weekly through the whole growing season. It's a magnet for black spot and aphids, especially in humid climates. It needs a hard prune every late winter down to a few main canes. It wants 6+ hours of direct sun, or it just sulks. The specific detail? Skip spraying for black spot for even 2 or 3 weeks in a wet summer, and you can lose most of the lower leaves before you notice. Real talk for a second. I loved the idea of a rose garden. I did not love spraying fungicide every 10 days. Now, here's where it gets good. Item 3 is prettier and even less forgiving. Item number 3, peonies. Peonies are the flower everyone plants for that one glorious 2-week window. Huge ruffled blooms, deep pink or white, almost too big for their own stems. Here's the catch for a low-effort yard. It blooms for about 2 to 3 weeks a year, full stop. The rest of the season, it's just a leafy shrub. Its heavy blooms flop over in rain without staking or a peony ring. It's prone to a fungal issue called botrytis if the foliage stays wet. It needs the crown planted at exactly the right depth or it may never flower. Insider detail: plant the crown even 2 inches too deep, and you can end up with a plant that grows leaves for years and never blooms at all. Mini aside, I once staked a peony bed with actual tomato cages because I panicked after a thunderstorm flattened the whole row. But if that's still not scaring you off, wait for the dahlias. Item number 4, dahlias. These are the showstoppers. Dinner plate-sized blooms in colors that don't even look real. Coral, burgundy, that impossible two-tone pink. Here's what makes them a commitment, not a plant. It needs the tubers dug up and stored every fall in most climates, or they rot in the ground. It needs staking almost as soon as it hits knee height. It's a slug and earwig favorite, so the leaves get shredded fast. It needs consistent deadheading to keep producing new blooms. One specific number: in climates below zone 8, you're digging, drying, and storing those tubers for roughly 4 to 5 months every single winter. Okay, real talk for a second. This is the item I get asked about the most because everyone sees them at the farmer's market and has no idea about the storage part. Let's keep moving because the next one is a fragrance trap. Item number 5, delphiniums. Tall spikes of blue, purple, or white blooms, the flower that makes an English cottage garden look like an English cottage garden. Here's what makes it a poor pick if you're busy. It can grow up to 6 feet tall and topples in wind without staking. Every time. It's short-lived, often needing replacement every 2 to 3 years. It's a slug magnet the moment the new growth pokes through in spring. It wants rich, well-drained soil, which most yards don't naturally have. Practical detail: stake it before it's even a foot tall, because staking it after it's leaning usually just snaps the stem. But if you want that vertical cottage garden look without the drama, hang tight, because item 14 is a very different kind of. Item number 6, gardenias. Glossy dark green leaves, waxy white blooms, a scent people build entire candle lines around. Also, one of the fussiest shrubs you can plant outdoors. Here's the reality: it wants very specific acidic soil, and yellow leaves are its constant complaint if the pH drifts. It's extremely sensitive to temperature swings and will drop buds if it gets too cold too fast. It's a magnet for whitefly and sooty mold in humid areas. It needs consistent, even moisture. Not wet, not dry, right in between. One number: a swing of just 10 degrees overnight during bud formation can cause bud drop before you even see a flower. I killed 2 gardenias thinking I was underwatering them. Turns out my soil pH was the actual problem the whole time. Moving into the back half of this list now, and it does not get easier. Item number 7, camellias. Rose-like blooms on a broadleaf evergreen shrub, usually deep red, pink, or white, flowering in fall or winter when almost nothing else is blooming. Here's what makes it high maintenance. It's picky about sun. Too much and the leaves scorch. Too little and it won't bloom. It drops flowers fast after a hard frost, so timing matters. It's prone to petal blight, a fungus that turns blooms brown almost overnight. It needs acidic, well-drained soil and struggles in heavy clay. Specific detail: petal blight can take a camellia from full bloom to brown mush in about 48 hours if the weather's damp. But if it's the fall color you're after, there's a far easier way to get it. We'll get there. Item number 8, fuchsia. Those dangling, two-tone teardrop blooms you usually see in hanging baskets on a porch. Striking. Also demanding. Here's the deal: it hates heat and will stop blooming or drop buds once temps climb past the mid-80s. It needs watering almost daily in summer, since hanging baskets dry out fast. It's a magnet for fuchsia gall mite in a lot of regions. Most varieties aren't cold hardy, so it's an annual redo every year in colder zones. One number: A hanging fuchsia basket can need water every single day once temperatures cross about 85 degrees. Now, here's where it gets good. The next one is technically an annual, and it still finds a way to be work. Item number 9, sweet peas. Ruffled, fragrant climbing blooms and soft pastels, the flower people plant for cutting gardens and porch trellises. Here's what makes it a chore. It needs a trellis or netting from the start, or the vines just collapse into a tangle. It needs deadheading, or worse, seed pod removal every few days, or it stops blooming completely. It bolts and dies fast once real summer heat hits. It needs cool soil to germinate, so timing the planting window matters a lot. Practical detail, leave even a few spent pods on the vine and the whole plant can shift into seed mode and stop flowering within about a week. Mini aside, I let mine go to seed by accident once, thinking I was being lazy smart. Bloom production basically shut off. But if that's still not enough, wait, we're teasing item 14 for a reason. Item number 10, a stilby. Feathery, plume-shaped blooms in pink, red, or white, usually planted in shade gardens for texture. Here's what makes it needy. It wants consistently moist soil and sulks fast in a dry spell. It's not very drought tolerant, so one missed watering in a heat wave can crisp the whole plant. It needs dividing every few years, or the center of the clump dies out. Its foliage browns unattractively if humidity or moisture drops too low. One number, a stilby can show visible wilting within just a day or two of dry soil during a summer heat wave. Okay, real talk for a second. A lot of these shade garden flowers get marketed as easy. They are not. They're just easy to water if you remember. Item number 11, foxglove. Tall spires covered in bell-shaped blooms, that classic cottage garden vertical accent, usually in purple, pink, or white. Here's the catch. Most common varieties are biennial, meaning they grow leaves the first year and only bloom the second. It needs staking once those flower spikes get tall and top-heavy. It reseeds aggressively in some gardens, so it can take over beds if you're not deadheading. It's toxic if ingested, which matters a lot if you've got pets or kids in the yard. Specific detail. Because it's biennial, you often won't see a single bloom until roughly 12 to 18 months after planting from seed. But if you want that dramatic height without the 2-year wait, item 14 delivers height in about 6 weeks, and honestly, too much of it. Item number 12, Clematis, the classic flowering vine for arbors and mailboxes. Big star-shaped blooms in purple, pink, or white climbing up a trellis. Here's why it's more work than it looks. Different varieties need different, very specific pruning groups, and pruning the wrong way at the wrong time kills that year's blooms. It's prone to clematis wilt, where a healthy vine can collapse seemingly overnight. It wants its roots shaded and its top in full sun, the classic cool feet, warm face rule most people never hear about. It needs consistent support tied in as it grows, or it flops. One number. There are 3 different pruning groups for clematis, and pruning the wrong group at the wrong time can cost you an entire season of blooms. I did not know pruning groups were a thing until I'd already ruined a vine. Learn from me. Almost there, but the payoff item is coming up next. Item number 13, ranunculus. Those impossibly layered rose-like blooms that look almost fake because there are so many petals packed into one flower. Florists love them for a reason. Here's the maintenance reality. It grows from corms that need to be soaked and pre-sprouted before planting, which is an extra step most people skip and then wonder why nothing came up. It's not heat tolerant and fades fast once temperatures climb. In most climates, it needs to be dug up and stored, similar to dahlias. It's fragile in wind and rain and can shatter its petals in a single storm. Specific detail, skip the pre-soak step, usually a few hours in room temperature water, and germination rates drop noticeably. That's item 13 down. Now the one I told you about. Okay, this is the one I told you about. Item number 14, Wisteria. Every single dream front porch photo you've ever saved has wisteria draped over it. Cascading purple or white blooms, thick woody vines, that dramatic waterfall look people plant an entire pergola around. It photographs like nothing else in this list, and that's exactly the problem. Wisteria is not a flower. Not really. It's a takeover. Under the right conditions, it can grow 10 feet or more in a single season. It doesn't stay on the trellis. It climbs into gutters, under siding, into roof shingles, and around anything else it can wrap itself on, including nearby trees and shrubs, which it will eventually strangle if left alone. Here's what makes it the most high-maintenance thing on this entire list. It needs aggressive pruning at least twice a year, in summer and again in late winter, or it turns into a woody, tangate mess with barely any blooms. Its woody vines get strong enough to warp gutters, lift shingles, and crack wood trim over a few seasons of unchecked growth. It can take 3 to 5 years to bloom at all from a young plant, so the payoff isn't even immediate. Certain varieties are considered invasive in parts of the country, escaping into nearby trees and woodlands. The specific number that matters here, unchecked wisteria vines have been documented growing over 25 feet in a single growing season under the right conditions. That is not a plant you get to when you have time. That's a plant that requires a maintenance calendar with reminders on it. I had a neighbor who planted wisteria on a porch trellis and didn't touch it for 2 summers. By year 3, it had pulled a section of gutter clean off the house. That is the whole deal with wisteria. It gives you the single most photogenic front yard feature on this list, and it will take your house down with it if you skip the pruning even 1 season. That's the one. Now, let's finish this out. Item number 15, azaleas. Rounded shrubs covered edge to edge in blooms every spring, pink, red, white, sometimes fully hiding the leaves underneath. One of the most common instant curb appeal plants sold at every nursery in April. Here's what makes it trickier than the pretty photo suggests. It needs consistently acidic soil, and most yards run more neutral, so yellowing leaves are extremely common. It's shallow-rooted, meaning it dries out fast and needs frequent watering the first couple of seasons. It's a favorite target for lace bugs, which stipple and bronze the leaves by midsummer. Pruning at the wrong time, anytime after early summer, cuts off next year's flower buds. One last practical detail. Azaleas set next year's buds by midsummer, so a quick trim in August can wipe out an entire spring's worth of blooms. That is the whole deal with azaleas. Beautiful for 3 weeks, then it's on you for the other 49. So that's 15 flowers, 0 guesswork, and a much clearer idea of what's actually going to eat your weekends versus what just looks nice in a photo. You don't need to be the person who remembers every prune date, every soak time, every soil pH swing. You just need to know which plants are asking that of you before you buy them, not after. If you want next week's list, the actual low maintenance swaps for every single flower on this one, that's exactly what I post here, so subscribe if that's useful. Full stop, a good-looking yard isn't about how much you plant, it's about how little you have to remember.